Hi, everybody. This is Warren Herman. Tonight, what we're going to speak about is a very important subject. This is a way of gaining an understanding of the challenges that we often have in the areas of forgiveness and guilt. It's very important for us to realize the things that drive us to have experiences that parallel or involve things that look like resentment. Because many times we can go through experiences that create these kind of flashbacks and resentments. And we have to understand the nature of these phenomena so that we don't make incorrect meaning out of them, and by making incorrect meaning out of them, flinch against them and therefore inflame them. The psychologist or psychiatrist or theorist called Carl Jung, he came up with this understanding of a concept called what you resist persists. And if we are greatly disturbed by the resentments and flashbacks that we experience, then we will resist them and therefore they will persist. So we need to begin to understand their nature so that by having accurate knowledge, we aren't disturbed by them and they will pass us by. They won't be important to us anymore. So it's very important to realize this because, sometimes we can go through an experience and we can think that we're very resentful because we keep thinking about it. But there might be something else that's going on. One of the things that may be happening is that in an experience, there may be a way in which you don't have compassion for yourself. You might have a way of looking at what you did, so you say, okay, in this situation, did I do the wrong thing or did they do the wrong thing? I mean, in likelihood, there's something you did and something they did, and it's worse on one side than the other, usually in any interaction. It could be worse in the whole, the context may be worse, and maybe that time you were worse. It could be very complex. But there's usually this way in which we have black and white thinking. They're right, I'm wrong, they're right. But what's missing is compassion. Compassion is missing. Understanding for ourselves and understanding for the other person is usually what's missing. And one of the things that can make us review something over and over again and make us think we have a resentment is a lack of self-compassion. Because a lack of self-compassion creates a feared self. And a feared self creates the need to be vigilant that feared self might be true. And so when you have a feared self, maybe I did something terrible. Maybe I misperceived everything that happened. Maybe I embarrassed myself, that would be terrible. That makes it so that you keep reviewing the situation to figure out whether that's the case, to figure out whether you're crazy, whether you're wrong, whether you're sinful, whether you need to make amends, whether you need to do this and whether you need to do that. And all these things on their own create other fears and other things like that. So that's one way of doing this, because we don't have compassion for ourselves, because we're not willing to understand, yes, I could have made a mistake. I could be mistaken. And having compassion for having made a mistake. Since we don't have that, that's one piece of this. We don't have that. The other thing that can happen is something that can occur when we are too agreeable. And when we are too agreeable and too nice and too tolerant of things, we get used to understanding or squaring the circle of another person. When another person, something they may be doing, let's say there's somebody in our lives who isn't doing things that in an objective sense are not making sense, we still do this thing where we square the circle. And so ultimately we can get so used to this that we are so used to perceiving others in this way, it can kind of break our brain when something really big happens that we can't square with the circle, and then we can't gel with how we made sense of these things in the past. We can't. That can be a thing that can happen in an experience. So that can occur when you are in a situation like that. So let's say that's a thing that can happen along those lines. Like you could say, okay, we're making sense of something that doesn't make sense, and that can kind of get stuck there. This is also another important thing. Sometimes it is easier to believe that something, that it's easier to believe that we did wrong rather than believe that the mechanism of doing that we have a life that's out of control. It's easier to believe that because of what you did, the other person did what they did, rather than just believe that people are not controllable and might do anything, even if you do everything right. So the thing is, because we get overinvested in the idea that if we do everything right, things will go well for us. And it's very hard to let go of that notion. And rather than let go of that notion, we will come back to the idea and keep thinking about the situation, thinking that if only we had done things differently, things would have turned out better and we would have been safe from harm. But this is an illusion. People may harm us even if we do everything correctly. There's no way to stop people from harming you. But the thing is, what happens is that we keep reviewing the situation out of a kind of unconscious allegiance to the strategy of doing everything right in order to not be harmed and rejected. And so the thing is, because rejection can happen even when you're good, you can't handle this because it's the only way that you're thinking that you're holding your life together. And so that is the reason why it brings us back up in your mind. And it's easier in a way to make it about us rather than make it about how the world is an unsafe place and how there's no way to protect yourself. So it's better to double down on that defense mechanism and say, hey, even though it's driving you crazy to be thinking you did the wrong thing, it's better to say that rather than say, okay, yeah, there's no way to protect myself against rejection and loss. There's no explanation. There's nothing in life makes sense sometimes. Yeah. So that's that's a way of doing that. So yeah. So this is similar also to think about this. Think about a child in a divorce. The child will usually say something like, "If I was a good boy, mommy and daddy wouldn't have split up," because there's this kind of we learn in our childhood that we have to be good, and if we're good, then things will go well. But the thing is, the truth is, it's not the kid's fault. But a lot of times we'll keep investing in a situation, say it's got to be my fault, because then you have to be able to explain. We can't just be like, oh, the world is chaotic. Sometimes it is. And so that's something that's really important. So I want you to think again about these things. We've talked about this. You have to the reason why you're having things that look like resentments in your mind is because you don't have compassion for yourself and can't accept that you may have done something wrong. The other reason is that you maybe you got used to squaring the circle of somebody else, and it's hard to believe that someone else did wrong, or made some mistakes. We're not attributing culpability here. Just talking about exactly the actions themselves. And it's easier. You may be reviewing the situation because it's easier to keep trying to find how your method of keeping life under control, which is to be good and do everything right. You're so invested in that, you're going to keep checking to see, you must have not done that right. How could that have happened? Because you have that investment and that attachment to that strategy of doing everything correct. So again, it's like you're gonna flip in your mind to you're responsible. You're gonna not allow that threat to your method of trying to be perfect in order to control everything. So that's the problem. And then the thing is too, when you're so invested in that method, you have an expectation. You're so used to suppressing yourself to get everything the way you want. You sacrifice. You think in your mind, hey, I did the right thing. Why if I did the right thing did I not get the result? When I did my strategy, that core strategy that we've learned, and we could have gotten these strategies from deep roots in ourselves. These can be rooted in just being a normal person, a normal level of, okay, I think if I do the right thing, good things will happen. This could be like a personality thing. You might just be have a people-pleasing type personality even without anything. Or you may have even grown up in a family that has a history of addiction or some other type of chaos or dysfunction. And you think, hey, if I don't control myself, you know, it's kind of like, in a situation, one of the examples that you can give are things like, okay, the person, they feel that they can't control their family, so they start to be obsessive and they start to control themselves. Okay, if I can't control how the other people react, but I'll control what I eat. So they develop, anorexia or something like that. And again, this is not a therapy video. Don't sue me. This isn't treatment. This is not official stuff. This is just thinking about how we can think about our own lives and our own patterns. And so there's this sense of, hey, you have these deep-rooted things and these deep-rooted patterns you think that they should have a result. And when you have these deep-rooted patterns that you live out and you think that there should be, a result, you think if I did X, Y, Z, I should get A, B, C. And you have this great anger when you feel like you did this method that is your thing of people-pleasing and it didn't work out. You have to keep reviewing it. You have this amplification that just does not compute, and you keep thinking about it. So these are many reasons why something can keep coming up in your mind. And it looks like a resentment, and it's not. So again, like it's not about judging people. It's just about realizing, hey, and you may notice this. You may notice that when you have these issues going on, you're going to have experiences where you feel like your mind is twisting, because your mind is going to be twisted because it can't, like there's a thing, they say you can't handle the truth. It's like, the thing is the mind can't handle the truth of the chaos of everything. So it's going to fog you up to defend, the thing that it's about you, that you have a sense of control. It's going to fog that up. And and the thing is, once you see that, okay, yeah, it's hard to accept that everything's out of control and there's no way to protect yourself against other people. These are hard things, but it makes you understand, why is your mind fogging you up? Why is your mind twisting it so that it's making it so, hey, making it so that you're responsible all of a sudden for things that it's making the story, it's flipping the script around, it's doing all kind of weird stuff in your mind. Why is this happening? Well, it's happening. You can't understand these things because in the back of your mind, it's threatening to understand them, because there's other things that are interrelated that are making it so the brain can't settle on the thing of, okay, yeah, like you may have made some mistakes. Let's have compassion for that. Let's have this compassion and this acceptance of the fact that life is chaotic, and be able to be compassionate toward ourselves and other people and understand why everything happened the way it did. Be able to see, and it doesn't mean we have to be uncompassionate to see the patterns and the wounds, to have the traits and the issues that other people have, to see those things and to be like, okay, that's what they're going through, and to see that and see what we were going through, to see that we all either had the traits or the emotions that influenced our decisions, and that's the best we can do at the time. We have to be able to see that and understand that and come to a compassion about the situation. Because when we get the right understanding of why this is happening, we also don't beat ourselves up for thinking about these things so much. We realize there's nothing wrong with us. It's just that because we don't understand the dynamic, we have to keep replaying it. It's because we don't understand why we're replaying the thing in our heads, but these are different reasons to understand why your head is replaying these things, so that you, by understanding it, can let it rest, and by compassion, understanding, can move forward.